The mass shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut that killed 26 people, including 20 children, echoed a similar tragic event in Britain more than a decade earlier. On March 13, 1996, at Dunblane Primary School in Scotland, 16 children and their teacher were killed. Semi-automatic weapons were already outlawed in the country after a mass shooting in the 80s, but handguns, which was the weapon used at Dunblane, were not.
When your child's life is taken away in what should have been the safest possible place in a school, you have doubts about everything.
My daughter was killed at Dunblane. A number of groups, and that included the families of the victims, started campaigning for making quite a dramatic change in the law in Britain, and that is getting handguns banned. And we campaigned on that for a year or so, during which there was a change of government.
And that's where the Labour Party came in at the time, and they made the legislative changes that were needed. It was a comprehensive handgun ban in the UK. It's a year and a half after my sister was killed in her school. I think that's the difficult part for me, is that I'm so close to my little sister. She's my best friend, and the difference is that I should have that big sister that was there to grow up with me in the same way that I grew up with my little sister.
There haven't been any school shootings in the country since Dunblane. In Australia, also in 1996, a mass shooting at Port Arthur killed 35 people. The lone gunman used a semi-automatic rifle.
Australia had just elected a new Prime Minister. He was one of the most conservative Prime Ministers the country had ever had. And within 12 days, he had wrangled a complete change to all of the gun laws in Australia. The reason he was able to do that was because he had support in the polls to ban all semi-automatic long guns and to bring in a range of restrictions like registering every single gun to their owner to make them personally accountable, and also licensing every gun owner.
Within a year, the government bought back 640,000 firearms. In the years since the buyback, mass shootings have become rare in Australia. The country did not experience another mass shooting until 22 years later in 2018. New Zealand offers a more recent example of a country that made changes to its laws after a mass shooting. On March 15, 2019, a gunman killed 51 people at two mosques in Christchurch with weapons that included an AR-15 style rifle.
Our gun laws will change.
The whole of Parliament was able to set aside any of the political differences and actually resolve gun law reform that needed to happen and has needed to happen for some time. Unfortunately, here in New Zealand, we didn't make the changes when they needed to be made. But now we have, and that does make us a safer place.
The great advantage that almost every country in the world has is that they're not saturated with firearms. The United States is the only country in the world where you have more guns than people. In fact, the United States is the only country in the world that has the Second Amendment or anything that goes that far. All the rest of the countries have laws like statute law which limit those rights. And the United States is the global outlier in all of this.